Good morning. My name is Pat Kemp. I'm chair of the HART Board of Directors. Welcome to the April 4th, 2022 regular Board of Directors meeting. The format is hybrid, and the quorum is physically present at County Center, 601 East Kennedy Boulevard, in the conference room. The rest of the board members are participating via communication media technology. Please look at I'm going to do I guess we'll do the roll call after the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you can look at the image on your screen, and we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, with that, staff, if we could do a roll call.
Director Castor. Here. Director Frazier. Here. Director Hudson. Here. Director Johnson.
Here.
Chair Kemp.
Here.
Director Knight.
Here.
Director Myers.
Here.
Director Overman. Here. Director Schisler.
Here.
Director Smith.
Here.
Director Vieira.
Here.
Director Williams.
Here.
You do have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next, we have public input. The rules for public comment participation are included in your packets. Is there anyone pre-registered at this time or present who wishes to comment?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. We'll move to approval of the minutes. The next agenda item is approval of the meeting minutes from March 7th, 2022 Board of Directors meeting. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay. A motion by Commissioner Overman and seconded by Councilman Schisler, and I think I heard someone else. Well, maybe we can do this by acclamation. We do this at the other meetings. All those who are in approval of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Minutes stand approved. We'll move next to the consent agenda. And before we take up the consent agenda, I understand that we have some business on 4A, and that is to get an auditing committee, which must include at least one board member, and as well, we could use staff for review of the committee. Is there some... I see some, was there any comment? Did you? Okay. And it can either be by designation of the chair or this committee could discuss it, but as I've discussed it, there was a suggestion, and I think it makes sense to have the Finance Committee take on this role, as well as it was suggested that staff, in particular, our finance leads on staff, Loretta, and I'm sorry, Loretta,
Miss Kirk.
Kirk, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't have your last name, just your first name. So to have Miss Kirk, staff was not able to vote on that committee, but they can advise and help the committee through, which makes sense. Is there anything else, Ms. LeGrand, that in terms of that you would suggest?
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. If you will allow me to ask Ms. Kirk to just approach the podium and just give a quick overview of what the process would look like. Thank you.
Good morning to the board and to Mr. Grant. What you're creating is the Auditor Selection Committee, and this is required according to the Florida statute. And so certainly it can be made up, you have to have at least one board member. You can have outsiders, but if you want the Finance Committee to take on that role, that would be appropriate. You do have to designate a chair, and then staff can only support. So we are here to support you. Procurement is here to support you, but you actually issue the solicitation, but we can certainly help you in any way.
Thank you. Commissioner Overman.
Thank you. The only challenge I see of having the entire Finance Committee is that the selection process will be a public meeting, because there'll be multiple board members, because it's more than just one. If we have one board member on there, then we're able to kind of go through the application in a way. So I don't want to delay the process, given that it'll be a public meeting as far as the selection process goes, and those are under consideration. So just wanted to make sure that we're aware of that, if that's the choice by the board to assign the task to the Finance Committee.
I see. And is that an issue as far as anyone is concerned? I appreciate that.
I don't know that it is. I just
Right.
wanted to make sure we brought it up.
No, that's good to be aware of that. If I hear no other issues with that, I don't know if we want to, if someone would, I then think if we're feeling this is the way to go, if someone wants to make a motion with regards to the Finance Committee, and to, would I appoint the chair of the committee, or is that, that's a function of this group? I guess the chair of the Finance Committee could be the chair of this committee, and we could have staff on it. If somebody wants to make a motion to that effect? If anyone is, or any other motion with regards to,
I'll make a motion if that's what you're needing. Do we need to modify the consent agenda? Because this is actually on consent.
We need to
so-
pull it off.
Yeah, I was going to say, do we need to remove this item from the consent agenda first and then vote on it? Or,
I think we could remove it from the consent agenda and just vote on it individually.
okay, I'll move item 4A from the consent agenda for consideration.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
Okay, with that removed, if we can have a roll call vote?
Chair Kemp,
Yes.
Director Overman,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Castor,
Yes.
Director Frazier,
Yes.
Director Hudson,
Yes.
Director Johnson,
Yes.
Director Knight,
Yes.
Director Myers,
Yes.
Director Schisler,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Vieira. The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, so we go back to the consent agenda with that one item removed, and then we'll take up that item? Is that how that works?
Right, we'll,
Okay.
we'll do that.
I'll make
Oh.
a motion. Oh,
So motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Mhm. Okay. We have a motion. Who made the second?
Councilman Schisler.
Schisler.
Chair Kemp,
Yes.
Director Overman,
Yes.
Director Williams, Director
Yes.
Castor,
Yes.
Director Frazier,
Yes.
Director Hudson,
Yes.
Director Johnson,
Yes.
Director Knight,
Yes.
Director Myers,
Yes.
Director Schisler,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Vieira. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we'll deal with 4A, which is what we talked about, authorize staff to proceed with the solicitation for procurement of external auditor services. Is there a motion with regards to that?
We're both looking at you. Are you going
Right.
to do it? I'm going to do it. Okay. Mr. Johnson, would you like to go ahead and make the motion, please?
I'll make the motion to approve.
The motion would be, I think you have to be
Oh, yeah, that's
explicit.
right.
So the motion is, as, I guess, as we discussed, which would be the Finance Committee. The chair of the Finance Committee could be the chair of this committee, and we also designated staff to be non-voting members of the audit. This is actually a solicitation committee or procurement committee. So would that be your
So moved.
motion?
Okay, I'll second the motion, but I do want to remind the board that the selection process is using, what's the name of that program that we use? For ranking?
Ms. Kirk,
I'm
please
sorry,
help
I've
the,
forgotten.
or
There's-
Ms. Zickerfoos, it's, what is the name of our,
Procurement process.
I have it on the tip of my tongue.
I know, I have it too.
Bonfire.
Bonfire, okay.
yes.
So, but Bonfire program actually provides all of the details associated with the response for the procurement for auditing services. And that's why I brought up the issue associated with a quorum, because we will be voting on that at that meeting. And so I think it would be wise to have the chair of the Finance Committee ultimately sit there and then potentially at the Finance Committee report progress. I'm just a little concerned about having that in the public realm and causing some challenges as far as all the candidates are concerned, so.
Okay, the only problem, let's see, if we just have the chair of the Finance Committee, we have to then appoint other members, correct?
Yeah, sorry, this is Julie Amanda. Yes, in order, the statutory provision as it relates to an audit committee, a procurement committee for the auditor services requires, if I recall correctly, 3 members. You can either use the finance committee, pick 3 members of the finance committee, or you can use somebody on the finance committee and then 2 others, like somebody from the city and someone from the county. I've seen it done a couple of different ways. So whatever's easier. Now, you still have to follow the sunshine law regardless of whether or not it's finance committee or not, but since it's a procurement, you follow the provisions of the procurement aspects of the sunshine law. And that would be fine for the finance committee to only serve in that one capacity and then follow the rules as it relates to the procurement. So I'm okay with us doing it that way, but that'll have to be a separate meeting that is designated for that purpose and that purpose only.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank
That
you.
answers my question.
Okay. So hearing that, I assume the motion that was on the floor already to have the Finance Committee do it and to have the Finance Chair chair it with assistance of staff. And we have a motion by Commissioner Johnson. I think that was seconded by you, Commissioner Overman, Director Johnson, Commissioner Overman. And hearing no further discussion, can we please do a roll call vote?
Chair Kemp,
Yes.
Director Overman,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Castor,
Yes.
Director Frazier. Yes. Director Hudson,
Yes.
Director Johnson,
Yes.
Director Knight,
Yes.
Director Myers,
Yes.
Director Schisler,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Viera. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we will move on to our presentations. The first presentation is the HART Strategic Financial Advisory Services made by Ms. Amanda Vandegrift from InfoStrategies, and Ms. Sharon Green is virtually attending to assist Ms. Vandegrift. You're recognized at this time to present.
Thank you. Okay, so today I'd like to cover several different topics, beginning with the work that we've been doing for HART for the past year, key task areas. We'll look at the baseline financial model for HART, which was one of the key deliverables that we developed for HART this year, financial scenarios that we've included in the model, how we're estimating the infrastructure bill increases that were passed by Congress in November, our key findings, our recommended financial strategies, and then we'll look at next steps. So last year we began assisting HART with the first 6 tasks, beginning with a detailed financial review of your existing documents and plans. We then went into developing a financial model. The financial model would be, it's a 30-year cash flow model. We were using all of the information we collected under Task 1 to develop this really critical planning tool for HART to use into the future. And for Task 3, we then did a funding and financing options review and identified several key primary and secondary sources for HART to consider. As part of Task 4, we then ran several different financial scenarios in the model, and we'll show you those today. And for another key task that we looked at was assessing and confirming HART's financial capacity to deliver the Tampa streetcar extension. We'll show you those findings today as well. And we wrapped everything up late October of 2021, and a couple weeks later, something very exciting happened in our industry. We had the infrastructure bill pass. So we went back and updated the model, because that changes a lot of our findings. Updated the model just recently with Task 7, and we presented to the HART Finance and Audit Committee last week. Now we're here today to present. There's one item that we're still working towards, which is conducting a modeling training session with HART staff so we can hand over this tool to HART to use for future iterations. So the key tool, the baseline financial model. This financial modeling tool is predicated on your inputs. So there are a lot of key drivers on the cost and the revenue side. You can see these here on the left. Your capital and operating costs, both for your existing service, but also for any improvements to your service, any additional fixed guideway projects that you're planning. Those are all included in the model. We're also using several assumptions on growth for both costs and revenue. We have your federal formula funds projected into the future, your COVID relief funds that you've received, your any potential capital investment grant funding for fixed guideway projects, other federal discretionary grants. You have your existing state capital and operating support that we're projecting into the future, and any potential new starts grants that you'd receive for additional fixed guideway projects. And finally, on the local side, there's several different key revenue drivers on your passenger fare revenue, your ad valorem tax revenue, and a potential sales surtax. And we're using some assumptions on growth rates, starting values to help us project into the future and look at what a potential scenario would look like. All of those inputs can change the output of the model. So we're making several assumptions, several industry-informed assumptions that could change into the future and change what I'll show you today. But we'll show you what it looks like today with the assumptions we're making. A lot of outputs, the outputs of the model include several key things. One is the estimated annual cash flow needs, both on the capital and the operating side. So the first time you're able to look at not just the next 5 years, but 30 years into the future. You can also project your funding gaps if you have any, depending on the definition of the program. What are those funding gaps? Are they on the program level? Are they specific to certain projects? And how can we fill those? So you can use the model to test different strategies to fill your funding gaps. You also can use the model to develop your capital investment grant program strategy. That's your key federal funding program for major capital fixed guideway projects, and other federal discretionary grant strategy. And finally, if HART does have a new dedicated long-term revenue stream, the potential for financing could be tested in the model as well. So when we developed this model, we looked at all of the capital and operating needs attributed to HART over the next 30 years. We looked at a program of improvements totaling about $17.8 billion in unconstrained capital and operating needs over a 30-year period. At the foundation, that includes HART's existing service, which is the bottom blue box, a total estimated cost of $6.6 billion in year of expenditure dollars, which includes inflationary assumptions. That is primarily operating, with some capital costs as well over the 30-year period. The next line item is what we are calling your funded TDP, Transit Development Plan projects. In your most recent TDP, I know you're doing an update right now, there were several items listed as funded. That's what's included in this bucket. That's primarily your paratransit improvements, both operating and capital, as well as some bus service frequency improvements. That total cost is about $1 billion and equates to about 6% of your unfunded list, or your unconstrained list. The next line item, which is a very small sliver blue line, is your HART share of the TICO streetcar extension. That was what was submitted in both capital and operating support to the FTA as part of the financial plan submission back in 2020. That equates to about 1% of your total unfunded list. And finally, the majority of this list is included in this big gray box. It's about $10 billion, 56% of your unconstrained list. It includes all of your planned frequency improvements, your innovative solutions, all the way to your rail and bus improvements that you're planning for fixed guideway improvements. And just to note, that $17.8 billion total cost estimate, the vast majority of it is operating. Any capital project you put on the street, it has an operating component to it, an annual cost that we're projecting out for 30 years. So this list includes several different project types, and I'll give you some examples here today. The first example is the heavy maintenance facility, which we're looking at a $100 million capital cost estimate with the proposed breakdown of funding here, including a partnership with the federal government, with the state, with the MPO, and with the county and city. This also has an operating component to it of about $6 million over a 20-year period, which we would, in the model, are assuming is 100% local. Another example project included in the unconstrained list is your frequency improvements. These are the frequency improvements that I mentioned as part of that light blue box of funded TDP projects. $209.4 million in operating costs increases. This is not a capital project, it's all operating, and you could see it being potentially funded 10% by fare revenue, with some federal formula funds, state funding, and the remainder being funded through local funds. Another example, a fixed guideway BRT. So, for example, if you have a $152 million capital cost of a bus rapid transit project, you would have an operating component, once you delivered that service, about $7.5 million in the model that we're assuming right now per year in operating costs. So if you look at the $152 million capital cost, then you also have a $216 million operating cost associated with that. Now, for these lower cost bus rapid transit projects, they are able to receive upwards of 60% federal support through the Small Starts program, Small Starts category of the Capital Investment Grant Program, which in Florida you're able to match 50-50 with the state. So this could be a potential breakdown of a BRT capital financial plan. On the operating side, you'd see about 10% fare box recovery based on historics, and then the operating side would be primarily funded through a dedicated local revenue stream. Compared to bus, rail can be much more expensive. So here's an example of a rail project. We'd have a capital cost over $1 billion. You'd have a much higher operating cost of around $22 million a year. And on the federal side, you'll see a lower share in general because we're going through the New Starts program. In general, if you look at the historic awards, a little lower than the Small Starts program, a little lower than cheaper bus projects. So this is a sample financial plan for a rail project, 45% match in New Starts funding, and then a 50-50 split on the local and state. Okay, so the financial scenarios that we ran in the model, we'll look at the baseline, which is looking at your existing conditions. We just are projecting your existing operating and your existing capital budget into the future. For scenario 1, we then add your new ferry service attributed to the grant that you were just successful in securing, and congratulations. And then scenario 3, we look at the existing conditions and add those funded TDP projects. Sorry, scenario 2. And then scenario 3, we will look at the sales surtax. So we'll show you each of these options in a moment. So how do we get to the infrastructure bill funding? The infrastructure bill passed in November of 2021, and it included 2 different components. One is your surface transportation reauthorization for the next 5 years, and the other is additional above baseline stimulus spending. This was an unprecedented investment in public transit nationally. And for HART, we're looking at guaranteed increases in FTA formula funds, somewhere around 30%, which I'll show you how we're estimating that in the model in a moment. There's also the potential for HART to secure additional federal flex funds through partnerships with the MPO and the state. There are new federal grant opportunities like the RAISE grant program, which has a notice of funding opportunity out right now, the Bus and Bus Facilities grant program, and the low and no emissions grant program received major increases as part of this bill. There's also several new federal competitive grant programs, including grant programs for ferry service. The new MEGA program has a notice of funding opportunity out right now. Reconnecting communities, safe streets, and so many more different opportunities that we're looking, we will be seeing notice of funding opportunities hit the street in the next couple months. And the other piece is the capital investment grant program. So if you're advancing some fixed guideway projects for new starts or small starts funding, there is the potential for major increases in federal capital investment grant funds over the next 5 years. So just comparing previous years, we were looking at the potential to double capital investment grant funding, and Congress almost did double it in fiscal year 22. They had up to $4.5 billion. Previous years, it was about $2.3 billion, and they went all the way up in appropriations this year to $3.8 billion. So a major increase in that program. That program also included changes that are important to HART. The small starts max cost went from $300 million to a new $400 million. So many projects can now compete for small starts funding rather than going through the new starts category. And those small starts projects can now receive up to $150 million instead of $100 million. There's also a bundling provision that was created as part of this infrastructure package to streamline and allow those sponsors that are advancing a program of projects through the capital investment grant program a more simultaneous way to do so. Oh, and just to mention that this is all really great, exciting news on the federal level, that we have all of this potential funding guaranteed for the next 5 years at least. But it's very important to note that to get that funding, to bring it into Tampa, you need a dedicated funding stream to match it. So for example, the mega grant notice of funding opportunity that's out right now, one of the 5 key criteria is committed funding. So without that, you really have a low chance of securing that grant opportunity. Excuse me. So estimating the federal funding that could potentially come to HART in this model, we looked at your 2021 actuals, which total about $19.2 million in federal funds, and we're projecting a 30% increase between 2021 and 2022. You are likely to see more than that, but we wanted to be conservative, looking at 30% increase in that year and then a 2% increase thereafter. We also are assuming in the model that HART spends down your carryover formula funding of about $12.3 million over the next few years. So before the infrastructure bill passed, I mentioned we did this initial round of work and then we updated it. This is what we were looking at. We were looking at a projection of just your existing service, your capital and your operating costs into the future. We did not add your funded TDP projects, and we didn't add the TECO streetcar extension. And we just looked at what that would look like into the future. And we were projecting a fiscal cliff, which, when I say that, I mean your operating costs were higher than your operating revenue, and at a certain point, you ran out of money to meet operating needs. So that would occur in 2026 without the infrastructure bill. With the infrastructure bill, we added about $5.8 million a year in additional federal funding. That shifted our fiscal cliff that we were projecting out to 2027. But keep in mind, this doesn't include any of your funded TDP projects, and it doesn't include your TECO streetcar shares submitted to FTA. Scenario 1 was then looking at your existing conditions, and then you add the ferry service. So the new ferry service, and congratulations to HART, you received $4.8 million in federal grant support for a new passenger ferry service. But with that passenger ferry service comes additional costs beyond the grant award. There's both capital and operating needs to be able to start up a service like this. And with that, we're assuming that there's no other funding support in the model currently here, but this is mostly meant to demonstrate how important it is for you to secure those partnership funds. So in the model currently, we have a total capital cost for the ferry service of about $46 million. You can see the 10%, that's your successful federal grant award, and the remaining costs, 90%, would need to be funded through partnership funds or other federal grants. On the operating side, you have a very similar breakdown where we could assume about 10% in fare box recovery, and remaining 90% of your operating costs would need to be supported through a partnership funding through HMS. There's also, just to note too, outside of your capital and operating questions, there's also a need to define your roles and responsibilities for management and operations of this new service. So now it really depends on what we're defining as our baseline. I showed you 3 different options here. We have our existing baseline, we have our baseline with infrastructure bill, we have a baseline with the infrastructure bill and the ferry service. You have a fiscal cliff somewhere between 2026 and 2027. And this fiscal cliff is driven primarily by your operating budget. Your operating costs are generally higher than your operating revenue. Your operating costs are growing at a faster pace than your operating revenue. And so just over the past 3 years, operating costs have grown on average 9.3% annually. Revenue, there have been positive revenue impacts related to the COVID-19 pandemic, including your relief funds of $103 million, which is primarily what you're using over the next few years to address your operating needs, which ultimately then you hit the cliff in 2026, 2027. This is primarily an operating cliff. So you see the operating is all in yellow up at the top. That is the majority of your budget annually. Your capital budget is much smaller compared to your operating budget. It's less of a driver here. Most of this fiscal cliff is being driven by your operating costs being higher than your operating revenue. So here's your new baseline as we're defining the baseline a fiscal cliff in 2027, and you can see now that yellow portion of your carryover going down, that's all operating. That's driving your fiscal cliff.
So scenario 2, we looked at existing conditions, and then we added in what were listed as funded transit development plan projects, including your paratransit improvements, some fixed route service improvements, and that is about $1 billion in costs on the capital and operating side. If you add $1 billion in costs to your existing conditions, that shifts our fiscal cliff up to 2 years to 2025. Scenario 3 is looking at a sales surtax. So if HART were to receive a 45% share of the sales surtax, we are looking at a potential to fund your existing service, to fund your TDP projects, to fund your share of the TICO streetcar extension, and finally to fund a portion of your remaining unconstrained list. Not the full list, but a portion. We're looking at about 32% of your unconstrained list that would be funded. This scenario also looks at, for the first time, the potential for HART to issue bonds to help deliver a program of projects early, and you'd have that dedicated revenue stream to repay the debt. And just to show you what it looks like if you turned all of your unconstrained list on, you cannot fund your full unconstrained list of projects that I showed you at the beginning. So you'd see a fiscal cliff in 2025 if you were to advance all of your unconstrained priorities under that scenario. So as another piece of our review, we did do a comprehensive review of funding and financing sources. I did just want to mention it because it was a question at the Finance and Audit Committee. We looked at over 70 sources. We shortlisted about 48.
a lot of federal sources, some state sources. But just to point out that the majority of the 48 sources that we shortlisted are all secondary sources. You need a primary source like a sales surtax or another dedicated long-term revenue stream to secure your secondary sources. So like I mentioned, the mega grant opportunity, you need a dedicated match to secure that federal opportunity. If you want to go for FTA, capital investment grant funding, you need to show that you have local financial commitment to bring that money in and then to get the state money associated with it. You also need a dedicated long-term revenue stream to issue any bonds. So to answer another question I got at the Finance and Audit Committee, how much could you bring in potentially in federal and state funding? If you compare the two different scenarios, this is what we're showing in the model right now. So scenario one is your existing conditions, and we're looking at somewhere around $1.5 billion in total federal and state funding. If you were to have a dedicated revenue stream where you could take that and match it and get federal dollars, bring more federal and state funding into the program, you could get somewhere between $0.3 billion and $1.2 billion in additional federal and state support in the Tampa region. So this is a very conservative look. I'm not assuming that you're receiving ferry grant after ferry grant after ferry grant in this model run. This is very conservatively assumed, but as a baseline, hopefully that answers your question.
Just to confirm, because that was my question, is this showing essentially what is newly eligible as opposed to maybe what a reasonable estimate of the receipts are? This is just saying what is eligible if there's a surtax.
Yeah,
not
this
eligible now.
based on the projects we have in the unconstrained list. So, for example, you have a BRT project that you wouldn't be advancing under scenario one. Under scenario 3, we have that project on, and you have federal support and you have state support. So that money would be coming into the Tampa region, and it wouldn't have been coming into the Tampa region but for a dedicated long-term revenue stream.
Are we?
Yes, go ahead.
And I walked out for a second. I had to take a call. Are we taking questions now, or?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Or you're finished, are you finished?
I
Oh,
think I
then
have
I'll
one more
wait
slide.
till the end then.
Yes, okay,
I
thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
No, you're fine.
My apologies. Thank you.
I was speaking right at you because that was your question. So I have one more slide, and then we can stop and take questions. So some key findings. There is a fiscal cliff. We're projecting it somewhere between 26 and 27, depending on what you define as your baseline, what is your existing conditions. And that is a reality unless you are able to reduce your operating costs, your service, or add a new revenue stream. The fiscal cliff is primarily an operating cliff due to operating costs being higher than operating revenue. Those COVID relief funds are really critical. You're going to be using those over the next few years to address your increased operating needs, and also the infrastructure bill funding as well. Without additional sources of funding, HART is not in a financial position to undertake new capital projects, including the HART-TICO streetcar extension, including any of the projects that were listed as funded in your most recent TDP, and any other projects listed in that big gray bucket I mentioned at the top. 45% of the sales surtax would enable HART to fund its existing service, to fund the TDP projects listed in your most recent TDP, your TICO streetcar extension capital and operating shares, and about 32% of your unfunded program of projects. So our next steps, I know HART is also working on, and this is wonderfully timed with the infrastructure bill's next 5 years of guaranteed funding. HART's working on a 5-year capital plan that will align with that. And so we'd like to incorporate that into the model before we hand it over to HART. We also are prepping the model and looking forward to a training session with key HART staff, which we're hoping to hold in the next month. I think that is my last slide. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, and with that, Councilman Vieira?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. A couple of things to point out there. Number one is we were talking about the federal funds that we've taken such a hit with COVID and whatnot, and our friends at the federal level, both through pass-through funding and direct funding, have really been there to remedy much of that gap. I worry about in the future with a different philosophical change, let's say, in the coming years, potentially, that we're going to continue to feel the effects of economic changes without that federal support. And so your presentation is very well taken. Something that I really wanted to emphasize was, and something that you spoke very well on, put a lot there, was the streetcar. I know the city of Tampa is very dedicated to the streetcar. We're giving, I think it is $500,000 in matching funds that I don't believe costs HART anything. Matching funds with FDOT to make sure that the streetcar continues to be fare-free. I believe last time I saw a report on the streetcar, it had, I think it was 10% of the ridership of HART, roughly, in 2021 for last year. So it's a great thing for our region economically, connecting people to where they want to go, including work. I think it's a great branding thing for the city of Tampa and for Hillsborough County. And I think the question must be asked, which is, what's HART going to continue to do to support the streetcar in the coming years in all the different financial and economic scenarios that you talked about so very well. So just to put that out there, which is that the streetcar is something that's so critical, not just to the city of Tampa, but to our whole region. It's a big part of the puzzle, and I think we should be committed to it at all areas, including HART. I speak also as a CRA member as well for the city of Tampa, et cetera, just to put that out there, that I think that's something that needs real critical funding, including continued support from this body. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Overman.
Thank you. I can't tell you how much I appreciate all this information. This board is charged with developing policy and revenues and everything else to help us move forward. So creating the transparency necessary to understand how we support HART and how we move forward is critically important. For example, asking the question, we keep saying the operating costs. And so I would love to ask Ms. LeGrand to bring back to us in the future an understanding of how common it is for a transit agency to have excessive, what could be considered excessive operating costs, or are we in a situation where our operating costs are out of alignment with other agencies, and what can we do to address that issue? I'm not of the mindset that we are out of the norm. I think a lot of agencies are there, but I would love to have that data for this board to consider, so there's not a perception that we're just, throwing away money irresponsibly, and I don't think that is the case at all. The other thing that is really important is, we have spent money on our TDP projects. We've done the work to be able to do these projects. We've spent the money to move those projects forward. And so to not be able to do those projects is frustrating because we've spent money that we may not have been able to spend, in other areas to move this city and this county forward as it pertains to transit. And specifically the TOD study that has been in the works for like 3 years in order to increase transit-oriented development access to the highest area of need when it comes to ridership. It has been in the works for a couple of years. We've spent quite a bit of money making that happen. And what I'm hearing is without not only being able to capitalize on the infrastructure plan, but also having another matching revenue source, that project won't move forward, it sounds like. So, unless some miracle happens and money fall out of the sky. But I don't see that happening. And that concerns me. This week, the Board of County Commission is going to be reviewing the results of the equity profile that I asked for to address our needs in our community and whether or not we're investing equitably or what things we can do to address inequities, not only of the past but of the future, that lists that that transit is a critical element of how we address inequities in our community. So I'm going to ask that we bring that report to this board so that we have a clear understanding of how important in our policy decisions here at HART, how that plays into how we're addressing the needs of our residents in Hillsborough County. But it's really obvious that we are not in a situation of moving forward without an additional revenue source. And I know we're going to be talking about the surtax language and the issues associated with the previous surtax at a future time, but either today or in the future. But it is very clear that this is going to be a great tool for helping us move forward. But it's also very clear that without doing something or proactively communicating into the community what the costs are of not generating a local match, because what I'm hearing is we can't fix it without the local dollars. You know, we would have to generate a significant amount of revenue on our own somehow to be able to move any of the expansion that's necessary for our area, including those projects we've already started moving forward on trying to do. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. So when I looked at this, I was like, this is really great information for us, but I think it's really important for us to make sure that the public is very aware that how we can best serve our community and what things we can do to get that outreach out to the community. So a communications plan in the future is probably valid. But thank you so very much for this information. I love transparency, and here it is. So, additionally, and then I'll quit. One of the commissioners at the Board of County Commission asked for a list of HART's projects for the next 30 years. I'm not sure how that can be answered, but I think this would be probably a good way to start. So that's scheduled to come back on April 20th. I don't know if it will, but I wanted to make sure that you're aware that that had been a request by one of our commissioners. So, and I'll stop there. Thank you so much for your presentation. It was sad and wonderful all at the same time.
Thank you. I'll just say that I'll have a little trouble getting to people in order of the screen because it's just coming up for me as commissioner, councilman. So instead of a name, but some of them are now coming up as a name. But before we go on, just for a little bit of clarification, I'll probably speak later. I usually wait for others to say, but I think it's really important to emphasize a few things that I did at the committee meeting where we went through this. And one, I think it's very important, and it was already mentioned, but the standard, I just want to affirm with you, the standard across the nation, and this is what I think people don't quite understand about transit, is that approximately 70% is spent on operating costs everywhere because that's your main costs in terms of your staffing, your bus drivers, your maintenance. That is pretty much a standard across the nation. Is that correct?
For agencies that aren't in an expansion mode, operations is your primary budget item, yes.
And I noticed here, when you did expansion mode, you moved it up to 81%.
That is specifically related to your list of projects in your TDP. There's a heavy focus on service improvements, so your operating costs there's more operating costs than there are major capital construction projects.
I just think it's very important for us to be aware of that. And I'll just say, the fiscal cliff too. I've been on the board for 5 years, and we have been on the edge or over the fiscal cliff for 5 years. Except that with the CARE Act and COVID dollars that have come in, but for that, we'd be there again. That has been what has saved us from the fiscal cliff. And when I think about our current operations, bus operations only, what we have now, which I think has been well analyzed, and I'm glad to have it presented in the manner that we had presented, but I think it's very important to remember that 2/3, we have 30 routes, and 19 of them are hourly routes, and with 11 that are half hour or under. That's our system. And that is stunning and terrible. And it's really a disgrace. We're the most underfunded transit agency in the nation, bar none, for a metro area of this size, not just by a little bit, but by a huge amount. Any place else we would be looked at as being in crisis. But we've just kind of, hobbled along at this. And so I just want to have that be part of the discussion and awareness that we have of where we stand at this time. But with that, I'll recognize, I think next Councilman Schisler, thank you. I had it down and then I lost it there.
Thank you very much. I wanted to say thank you very much for the tool. It's a tremendous opportunity for us to see what's going on. It's a tremendous opportunity for us to see what's actually happening within the organization. We can't do anything till we know where we are. This tells us where we are. But I also need to caution everybody that this just is the beginning of this entire process. Essentially, other than day-to-day operations, we've done nothing to rein in extend the cliff or do anything. And I noticed that, and I caution people who are listening, that after the committee meetings, when this was first presented, I think within 24 hours, there were news articles that HART has hit a cliff, and we're falling off that cliff. And I think that's a little bit unfair because we haven't had the opportunity yet to fix what's going on. Other than just day-to-day stuff, we haven't really taken the carving knife out. Let's fix what we need to fix. So we need the opportunity to take this information, digest it, work out scenarios, work out plans, and the administration and under Ms. LeGrand and Ms. Kirk, they're going to get it done. I have total confidence. But they need this tool to be able to see where we're going and how we're going to get there. And what happens if we do this, this happens. This interactive tool is going to be phenomenal for moving forward. 30 years is a long time. None of us will be around here in 30 years, at least involved with this board, I would surmise. And many of us will be gone, period. So we have an opportunity to really leave a legacy for HART to get away from the cliff, hopefully, and keep it at abeyance until while we search for additional revenue streams and so forth moving down the road. I do have one quick question. How long is the infrastructure monies available?
Between 22 and 26,
And
fiscal
that's it?
year
And
22
okay.
and 26.
Then it falls off. Okay. Again, I go back. The strategic planning is going to be critical with this. Now we have an opportunity to really do what we can do, what we need to do, and move forward with it. And thank you for the tool, and I think we're going to get a lot of success with it. That's all.
Thank you.
Mayor Jane Castor.
Thank you. Thank you for this information. It's invaluable, although somewhat depressing. But I do agree that with this federal funding, I feel that we need to be very, very bold. We are growing, the third fastest growing city in the nation right now, #1 location for real estate. We are growing, and we have got to address our transit. It is a crisis right now. And so for us all to come together and ensure that there are solutions, the funding, the surtax is also critical. We have to do all that we can to make sure that our community is aware of the needs and also the benefits of providing those transportation solutions. And I think that's incumbent upon each of us to ensure that that information gets out there and that individuals, especially in this difficult time when the cost for everything is rising, we have to show the benefit of investing in transit solutions. And I fully support the maintenance unit that is way overdue for HART. And then also with the ferry system, that's going to be a quick transit solution for a number of people in our community. But I also have to underscore Councilman Vieira's support of the streetcar and say once again, which you've all heard from me, that that is the #1 project for the city of Tampa. We're looking at putting our funding in as match, and then a number of other areas on statewide, federal, that we're looking for the funding for that, so to take the operational costs off of HART's plate. But there is a need for dramatic reduction of cars in the urban core. We had, our streetcar was #2 in the nation for ridership. We outnumbered riders with Sunrail, which has 61 miles of track. And so it is a need. It's a need seen in the city as well as out in the county. The transportation, this transit will also connect with the bus systems and connect East and West Tampa with the jobs that are growing down in our community. I don't know if I said, but just under 1 million riders last year compared to 9 million car trips into the urban core. So that shows the dramatic need of having that. And the transit solutions are critical, especially as our housing costs go up. If we can take transportation off the budget plate and provide access to jobs, that's a benefit for not just the city, but for the entire county as well. And as I said before, we're trying to ensure that we can get that funding that will take a lot of the operational costs off of HART's plate. But it is critically important that we have our entire community understand that we have got to put transit solutions in right now. And I agree with Gil in that we have to be very bold and we have to put these long-term solutions in place. There'll be a lot of pushback, but we have to ensure that we're looking out for the future of our community, not only as it applies to housing, transportation, and jobs as well. So our #1 project, the streetcar. Thank you.
And Director Williams?
I was just going to echo your sentiments, Mayor Guster, as well as Councilman Vieira, regarding the streetcar, and you've given enough facts around those, and there's more to talk about, but I would like to just make sure that we continue to bring board awareness to the streetcar and talk about it often, regularly, and making sure that others are aware of the value that it brings to our plan and continue to contribute to the bigger cause here to make sure that it is on the plan, #1 plan for the city, as well as people understanding how it fits into the greater plan from a housing, parking perspective as well. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Smith?
Thank you. And this presentation, great presentation, as Councilman Schischler says, this is an important starting point. As others have noted, we have work to do from here to ensure that our priority projects are funded by hook or by crook. This presentation that we just saw is 27 pages. The one that we had in our backup was 17 pages. So this one had about 10 extra slides. And I just want to make sure that right after this meeting that we all get the most updated presentation that includes all of this information we just saw. And I'd like to ask, did the Finance Committee see this final version or the smaller version that's in our packets?
Smaller.
Okay. And so there's a couple of things that I think need fine tuning. Of course, as you mentioned, Chair Kemp, the operating cost is the biggest share of everything. But, you know, as Mayor Castor noted, the city of Tampa will be sharing those costs to some extent with HART with regards to the streetcar, and the ferry operating costs were noted here as part of the calculation in one of those additional new slides. So I'm not sure if it's been taken into account. that HMS ferry operators will, in fact, be absorbing those operating costs. So those are not things those are a couple of the things on the operating side of the ledger that I noticed that may not be actual funding responsibility for HART. So I look forward to, the further fine tuning of this and working out how we will be able to fund these strategic projects as we go along. And I agree with everything that's been said about what our priorities are. Thank you.
And you are correct. We did not assume that that was a revenue item in the model, but the model absolutely can be updated to include that as a revenue item for the ferry service.
Thank you. And Director Hudson.
Thanks. So I've got a request and then a comment. The request is understanding that operating costs are really driving this, and that labor is what drives operating costs. I don't want to lose sight of the other components of that, one of which is fuel costs. I've asked that for at the next strategic committee meeting, we get a sense not really from you, but from HART staff of what our risk is of fuel costs maybe staying where they are or going higher, to Council Member Vieira's point about being concerned about perhaps an unfavorable future. But I want to make sure this model sort of bakes that in, because to the extent to which fuel costs staying where they are is going to determine how we look at the way we deliver transit in the next 30 years. That would be helpful. The comments is on the streetcar, to echo what my fellow City of Tampa representatives have said. To Mayor Castro's point, there's a lot of people coming here to Tampa. We probably should have built more housing 10 years ago, but we were still too shell-shocked from the recession. So now we need a lot of housing, and I think in every single part of this county, in the HART service area, affordability is a huge issue. And there's capital A affordable housing that comes from federal and state largesse, which is not something we can always count on. There's also naturally occurring affordable housing, sometimes called NOAA. And that really occurs when you're able to connect where a lot of people live with where a lot of people work without a car. And there's different areas of the county in the service area where we can do that, but I don't think there's an opportunity as immediate as there is in the streetcar area. So I do think it's really critical to continue to support that, and what has been, I think, a really worthwhile partnership amongst the federal government, the FDOT, the city, and HART. So I hope we can continue that, because again, we've got to plant a lot of seeds throughout the county when it comes to affordability, but there's no more immediate opportunity, in my view, than streetcar. So I hope we can continue to support that. Thanks.
And Director Johnson.
Thank you, and thank you again for such a great presentation. While seeing it the second time didn't make it any better from a, feeling better standpoint. Again, it was, a lot of great information for us to be able to take a look at. And as far as on the streetcar discussion, I couldn't agree with you more how the streetcar can be a huge driver for us later on once that is getting up and running at the rate that we would like it to. I have a quick question for Ms. LeGrand. I know at one point we were talking about, I guess, the longer-term agreement with the streetcar, with the organization. Where are we on that right now?
So we are still working through the process of going through. There are two things. One, we have a contract, which we're in the 5th year of the 5th year's extension. So we're working on those contractual terms to understand, what we need to do to move forward with a new contract with the Tampa Historic Streetcar Group. So that's one. The other is we're working on an MOU between the partners as we advance the extension of the streetcar, and that's required in our application with FTA to move the streetcar project forward. And we're actively engaged with the city and working with the partners to put that MOU together. So the answer for your question is we're still working on it. We're still going through the process and having conversations. And our intention is to have that wrapped up sooner rather than later so that we can move forward with some of these dollars that are available to advance the streetcar. But we'd have to have that finalized as a part of the application for the grant. And one last thing I would say is, the presentation is great that Amanda has presented with infrastrategies, but the impetus of how we got here was the streetcar. So I would have to say, commend you that were sitting around the table way before I got here and realized that you needed to have a model to model the streetcar to understand the impacts of the streetcar on HART's financial health, right? And because that contract already existed, that allowed us and afforded me the opportunity to come back before you to expand their scope to look at our entire operation. So, really the baseline of the baseline model was really the streetcar with everything that's in the streetcar and how it impacts HART. And then what Amanda and her team did was added all of our other services into the model. So from a modeling perspective, I would say that we have a very good understanding of the impact of streetcar and then understanding what we need for the grant application because Amanda's team was intimately involved in working on that. So the next steps in the process will be to get the MOU finalized so that we can move forward with the next round of applications to move the streetcar forward.
Perfect. And so along those lines, I know there are a few other members here that are on the streetcar board along with me, and I know that I've had some comments in the past about how that is running currently. I think it's going to be very important that that agreement is going to be something that is going to be beneficial for us. Because of the fact that we are in the fifth year of a fifth year, basically 10 years from really having a comprehensive overview or review of this, I think it's important for us it needs to be done sooner rather than later. I know that you're working as hard as you can with the 800 other things that you're doing right now, but I think that is something that needs to be done very quickly, or at least we need to be getting an update very quickly. And I'm going to go back to the streetcar board, and again, I'm concerned at the rate things are going. We have not had a meeting there for the last few months, and I want to be able to make sure that we're going to be able to get things rolling the way they need to be, because as we've just discussed, there's so many different things that are going to be driven from the streetcar and how that is going to be developed. That's all I've got. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Overman?
Yes, thank you. And I'm just going to sort of tie the three different elements together. What we've heard is, in order for us to make transit really work, is tying it to density, removing cars off the road, giving people choices to ride our transit system, and tying it to affordable housing. And I think that's critically important. So when we look at where we can address our affordable housing needs and how transit can serve it, it becomes very much more clear why, one, the streetcar is so critically important, because we do have significant investments by the city and the county in the dense core in order to address that. But we do have affordable housing all over the county. And to Commissioner Kemp's point, 60-minute service, while it is the best we can do right now, is not adequate for our workforce. It just isn't. And so looking at how we tie our transit-oriented development plans and tie our route to functional transit service. Unfortunately, what we have now is it works really well, but within the financial constraints. So in order for us to really make sure that fiscal cliff doesn't become a reality, we do need to plan for the future. And to do that, the expansion of the overall service in those underserved areas where affordable housing is one of the most efficient ways that we can actually not only increase ridership, but also address our operating costs, because it's spread across much more in the way of ridership. The frequency of the streetcar allows for the ridership to be stellar as one of the things, besides the density that's around it. And we don't have that luxury, financial luxury, of doing that in other parts of our county, nor do we have the ability to do circulator services to tie to longer routes. And so it really makes a difference when we have sufficient capital to utilize the state matches and the federal matches to get us to a place It allows us to have a transit system that makes a significant difference in people's lives, and address our affordable housing issues, and our workforce issues, and our economic mobility issues within our community. So I'm excited about what we need to do, but it's very clear it's going to take a lot of revenue to make this happen. In the scenario where you're discussing existing conditions with the infrastructure, but not necessarily adding the unfunded TDP projects, the TICO streetcar, and the funded TDP projects that we have now, we still have $1.5 billion worth of shortfall, even with the infrastructure money. So it's very clear, and that's because we won't have the local match to qualify for those other unfunded projects. Is that accurate?
Why you have the 1.5 billion?
Yes, ma'am.
Primarily because your operating costs are higher than your operating revenue in the existing conditions. But yes, your ability to compete for additional capital grant opportunities is also a piece of it. But
that's what I was afraid of. And that's why it's really important for us to look for all revenue sources, including local funding resources as we will move forward. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
thank you.
And I don't see anybody else that wants to speak at this time. Is that accurate? I'll just ask one, because I think it's a slide that was added. The rail slide, was that added?
Yes.
Could you bring that up for a minute?
And yes, that was added in response to questions about if we were to deliver a capital project, what would be the operating component? And the answer is it really depends. Yeah, I can. Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I? As Ms. Vandegrift brings up the slide, these are examples, so they do not reflect any of our specific projects, but as she stated, that from the committee meeting, she had a list of questions, and what she tried to do here was to respond to the questions in the presentation. So I believe one of the questions that she was addressing was, if we spend money on a capital investment, what does the operating impact look like for those capital investments? So in response to that question, she provided a couple of examples. One was for a BRT project, one was for a fixed skyway project, and I think the third was just for existing bus improvements.
Yeah.
I see. And since I didn't get a chance to process these quite before, I appreciate that. I just wondered too, I didn't know if this was to be a tool in how you could operate, but and this is a sample of fixed guideway, although there are, do you have, I'm just wondering about multiple samples, because I know it's very different cost to build new fixed guideway as opposed to convert fixed guideway if you were doing rail that already exists. Like I'm speaking to the differences between conversion of a CSX, for instance, tracks, as to building an all-new track.
This is one example of what's in the model. There are varying levels of capital costs for project types, and it's not necessarily conversion versus new build. It really is what your corridor is and what kind of costs are associated with that. So this one's just assuming that the total costs, and if you're baking in year of expenditure dollars, so you're baking in inflation, about $1 billion in costs for a potential rail improvement. Not necessarily commuter rail, it could be light rail, it could be, this is just a sample of what a potential project cost could be.
Right, and it doesn't have any kind of miles on it or anything.
No, this is just
example.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify those. I'll just say, I do think this was, it's a great tool for us to have. It's something for us to understand. I think it puts it in a perspective that we haven't been presented before. As I said, we did travel off the fiscal cliff very nearly once in 2017. I think it was 2017 that we did what was called Mission Max, and there were some who had the impression that that was done for efficiency, which it was always, but it also just cut out the routes that were extraordinarily important to people, and because we didn't have the resources. And even when we did that, we came close that year to the fiscal cliff, to the edge of what I was worried about, whether we were whether we could make payroll. And this is prior to the funds we were given. So we face serious choices without new revenue here in the future. And as I said, I just want to speak very much to appreciate all the input. I've been a big promoter and understand all the forms of transit, but I'll just say I really want to see, also I'd like to see a doubling of our bus services. And by that I mean our hour-long routes move to a half hour. Our half-hour routes move to 15 minutes. There's a lot of places where they have 5-minute routes and 10-minute routes, it doesn't exist here. I think we have 12 to 15 minutes, which makes it so people can actually, but for the streetcar. I guess the streetcar is 15 minutes now most of the time, from what I understand. But I'd like to see us, as we prioritize moving in those directions. I think it's very important, particularly as an equity issue, to be looking and thinking about that along with everything else. But with this, I think it's an excellent tool. It's great. Good to see it in this form, although it's horrible to see it in this. It just is. It's very, to see how we're actually funded and where we're looking at in the future. But it's something we need to know and be able to work with.
Commissioner Kemp, can I make a motion to receive the report and ask that the final set of slides be sent out to the board members, because it is different from what I'm seeing even on the agenda. So if you need a motion to receive the report or presentation.
We
so
don't,
moved.
but you can. But go ahead.
So moved.
So you make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. And we have a motion by Commissioner Overman, seconded by Commissioner Smith, and seeing no further comments at this time, I think it's a good idea, even though we did need a motion, but I'd like to get the full set of slides as well. So with that, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Chair Kemp,
Yes.
Director Overman,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Coster.
Yes.
Director Frazier.
Yes.
Director Hudson,
Yes.
Director Johnson,
Yes.
Director Knight,
Yes.
Director Myers,
Yes.
Director Schisler,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Vieira. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And with that, and seeing no other present, do we have, I'm sorry. The sole source awards. Sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. The second presentation is the state and federal legislative update. Representatives from Holland and Knight are recognized to present at this time.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Good to see everyone. I'm Lisa Berkovic, Senior Policy Advisor, and been working with HART for many years now on its federal agenda. And I'm also joined here with Kimberly Case, my colleague, representing HART at state level in Tallahassee. If we can go to the next slide, please. I wanted to provide you all with an update from both the federal and state perspective. There's been a lot happening in the first quarter of this year. The big news was that we had an omnibus appropriations bill that got signed into law. This is very unusual to have our appropriations process go this far into a new calendar year without it being completed. So I know we were all very nervous about it. But at the end of the day, it got done and the president signed it into law just 2 weeks ago. I know the presentation before us covered some of the key things about what was in that bill in terms of funding for transit. So here are some just highlights. It provided an additional $775 million for the RAISE grant program, making this current round of RAISE that's open the largest in program history at $2.275 billion. And so we could see some RAISE grant awards in the high amounts of up to like $45 million, which is also, we haven't seen that since it was a Tiger during the ARA stimulus round of funding. So I think that's kind of really exciting news to see how this program has really taken off. Transit formula programs grew from $10.15 billion from last fiscal year, FY21, to $13.35 billion in FY 2022. So this is that 31% increase in funding. The capital investments grant program also grew from $2 billion to $3.8. We have over $500 million for transit infrastructure grants and $30 million for a new Thriving Communities program for DOT and HUDs. This is going to be providing technical assistance grants to kind of coordinate transportation network systems and housing. And so a theme that I've heard you talk about this morning about the need for additional housing, but also the need that also creates on the transportation network. So I think this is a new grant program that we should be looking at too in terms of that technical assistance and planning to help kind of link those two together. So now that that's completed, we've rushed right into a new budget and appropriation season. The president sent his budget request to Congress last week. Transportation is proposed to increase by another $7 billion over, or 8.7% over FY22 numbers. Some of the new proposals in his budget request: $100 million for a new FTA climate resilience program. So this is looking at providing money to help protect our current transportation investments. A proposed $50 million for a new FTA zero emission planning grant program. So, you know, part of the IIJA and looking at all of the money that's going for electric vehicles, really, how do you plan to move your fleet forward? And then there's additional proposed increases for RAISE and Thriving Communities. Next slide. So to recap to where we are on federal grants and where we are looking towards in the future, we have our HART wins. We had $300,000 awarded by the FTA in January for transit-oriented development planning around 4 stops. And then last month, as we've already heard this morning, we have an award of $4.86 million for a passenger ferry for the Cross Bay Ferry Service. And then on the horizon, the first deadline we're looking at and hitting is next week. It's April 14th, that RAISE grant opportunity. Of course, you know, having a solidified matching funds to be successful in this program, even though the amount of money is more than double to what we've typically seen, it's still highly competitive. The next grant, the next deadline that we're looking at is community project funding requests. So community project funding requests is the new modernized way of earmarking our annual appropriation bills. So this is an opportunity for HART to work with its members of its delegation who are participating in this process to submit an earmark request to, you know, support either additional funding, whether it be looking at the heavy maintenance facility or maybe a bus stop and shelter replacement program. we have a lot of different options to kind of think about that and what we would like to present to the delegation. We also have the bus and bus facilities notices of funding open on due May 31st. Because we were not successful in the last round, we do have a debrief scheduled with the FTA next week. So to kind of walk through where, we fell in terms of our application submittal from last fall. It's an overprescribed program. So even though Congress is pumping in a lot more cash into these programs, they're still so competitive because everybody has major backlogs. And we've been successful in the last couple of rounds too. So just getting a debrief from them just to understand exactly, if there are places of improvement, what we could do to do that. Low to no emissions is also due May 31st. One caveat, we talk a lot about going after these grants, but there's also a strategy that we have to take on some of this. One of the things that, when we're looking at these programs, I will say it is unlikely if you get a bus and bus facilities award that it is unlikely that you would get a low to no emissions award. You don't really see people get grant awards in both buckets of funding. So that's just kind of something to kind of keep in mind as we strategize our path forward on trying to get additional federal funds on this, particularly because you have two major programs for transit that have applications due at the same time. And then another new program that was created in the IIJA, the Safe Streets for All, this is projected to open in May. So just kind of looking at what's happened in first quarter, what is on the horizon for second quarter, and then we're also monitoring all those other new programs that the IIJA did create. Now, some of them were subject to appropriations and they were not funded in the omnibus bill. For example, the Healthy Streets program. That was created in the IIJA, but Congress did not fund it in appropriations, and we wouldn't see that notice of funding be available this year. But please let us know where can be helpful in thinking about these things, a little bit further detail. And I'll turn it over to my colleague, Kim, to talk about state. Next slide.
Thanks, Lisa. I'm Kimberly Case with Holland and Knight. I'm part of your lobbying team in Tallahassee. Mark Delegal is the other member of our state lobbying team, and he was traveling this morning, so couldn't be here. So I'd like to just briefly provide you an overview of the regular session. They met a little earlier this year, January 11th through March 14th. They had to do a 3-day extension due to finalizing the budget. And due to federal funds as well as how the economy is doing right now, it was an historic budget, $112.1 billion, and that's pending governor's approval. A fully funded FDOT plan at $11.1 billion. They also included at the very end of budget, which we were tracking anything dealing with Hillsborough County Transportation Surtax revenue language. That said anything in escrow had to be transferred back to the Florida Department of Revenue upon the issuance of a final judgment by the court. So that was included in the state budget. Several of you have already commented based on the presentation that we've had about some of the limitations because we don't have that transportation surtax revenue, that steady stream of revenue. So what we've wanted to do is go to the legislature, to government agencies at the state level and say, what are some other creative ways that we can find additional funding? And specifically in the meetings that we've had with the Hillsborough delegation, the governor's office, FDOT, and DEP, 3 funds have been identified as ones that we should pursue. The first one is the Florida Job Growth Program. That does not include a state requirement, a local match requirement. So we think that that would be a great opportunity, and here's why. Specifically, that program allowing bus maintenance specifically for EV maintenance makes it an excellent candidate because we have a partnership with HCC, and we emphasize the economic opportunities, how that would create a pipeline of skilled workers, specifically in the cutting edge area of EV maintenance. And that really resonated with the legislature and the governor's office. And that funding is $50 million. And it's a rolling application. So that's something that we could do in partnership with Hillsborough County as well as Hillsborough Community College. So that would be the next step, is having those conversations and doing an application for that. The second pot of money is the Resilient Florida program. That's to address rising sea levels and protecting programs such as transit. We believe, given the vulnerability of HART's current heavy maintenance facility to flooding every time it rains, that it makes it a good candidate as well. That particular program was funded at $470 million by the legislature, and there are ample funds available for different projects. That would be one that would require a local match, but in our conversations with DEP, there is some flexibility in how, and creativity in how we can count local match funds. So we believe that having a conversation with the county on that and potentially applying, that application process opens up in May, and we think that's another great opportunity. And finally, the third pot of money is a new program that was created this year. It's called the Local Support Grant Program. That's a $175 million program for local governments, education entities, or privately operated programs that support local initiatives. And the chairs of the Legislative Budget Commission will be putting out guidelines, and then legislators will submit requests for those local service support grant programs. Based on our initial conversations with legislative staff and committee chairs, we believe that the HART Heavy Maintenance Facility Construction Project would be a good candidate. So that's another one that we'd like to pursue. And as we get more information on that program that was just passed, and if the governor approves the budget, then we will start working on that as well. Finally, some of the other issues that we've worked on during the legislative session included work with the Florida Public Transportation Association in advocating for protecting existing state grant programs, as well as, where possible, increasing funding, including Transportation Disadvantaged Trust Fund. That was increased by $6 million in this year's budget. We also had requested a continuation of some flexibility in not requiring a local match for some state funds. The legislature was receptive to that in the last 2 years and waived that requirement of that 50-50 match. But unfortunately, this year, that language was not included in the final budget negotiations. The other issue that we had alerted HART to, and we worked with Florida Association of Counties as well as Florida League of Cities, there was an effort to potentially raise the thresholds for state sovereign immunity as well as local government and other subdivisions. And we just alerted people about the significant fiscal impact that would have. We can go to the next slide if we could. There was language that would have increased the limits to 1 million, and one went up to as much as 3 million per incident. That legislation did not pass, so the current statutory caps of 200,000 per person and 300,000 per accident remain intact. But we believe that that will be an issue that will probably be introduced again next year. And then finally, the legislature completed their regular work, which was to pass the budget as well as redistricting maps. However, the governor vetoed the legislature-approved congressional maps on 3/29. So the legislature will be coming back for a special session April 19th through April 22nd. At this time, the call is solely for the purpose of redrawing congressional redistricting maps, but there is a possibility that they will expand the call to include perhaps something as property insurance is one of the issues that's, at least the rumor mill up here is that might be introduced, but we don't know yet. So that's in a nutshell what we've been working on, and we'll continue to work with legislators, do meetings. Obviously, anytime we have the opportunity to have the area legislators come take a tour of the heavy maintenance facility so they can see why it is a top priority to construct a new one. We'll be doing that over the summer as well. That concludes my state portion of our report. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's any questions, please let us know.
Okay, do we have questions at this time? Director Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks Lisa and Kim for the report. My first question is going to be, it's going to be more on the federal side when it comes to the community projects. I guess that's what we're calling it today. For the heavy maintenance facility, are we looking to be able to try and use that as a request for I'm just going to say earmark request? Is that something we're looking at, or have we decided what we are going to be using, or at least go and talk to our local delegation on?
We're going to talk to the local delegation and seek input, but no final decision has been made. Obviously, the parameters around community project funding request is you're really not going to see any funding amount really higher than $5 million. So, that is an option. I will also just say that the one caveat about this, but I think this will also be kind of similar with grants. It's not a complete guarantee. We're in an election year, and we saw that this past year we didn't complete the FY22 bill until March. And so there is some concern that if the majority changes in Congress this coming November, that there will be, a play to push the FY23 cycle also into calendar year 2023. And it's possible that, community project funding requests could get stripped from the bill. So it's not a guarantee, but obviously, I think that this is an opportunity for us to seek our delegation support and at least, be able to ask for a couple $1 million for one of our top priorities. We should definitely do it. And just to note, we did do this last year too, but we had the surface transportation reauthorization bill happening at the same time appropriation requests were being asked for. And because House members last year were limited to only making 10 requests, members took the strategy of putting transportation requests into the reauthorization process. But because of how the IIJA then just got, put together, all of those projects did fall out. So we were in line last year to get, it was $7 million was recommended for a bus shelter improvements program. But obviously, that did not happen.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. I just wanted to be able to make sure we were still had an idea of what at least to go after. I certainly don't want to have a cycle go by where we at least don't have a request. So, I'm A-okay with still trying to come up with something as long as we have something. That's the important thing for me. And if anything, look, I know how hard these are, having, done it, putting my college hat on, having done this, I know how competitive these individual appropriations can be. So I think I'm good on that. I did have a quick question on the state side of things when it comes to the job growth grant funds. Again, having gone through this process myself, are we still looking at those dollar amounts being kind of in the maybe like $2 to $5 million range as well, Kim?
Yes, and I checked, and sort of the average is around 5 to 6 million. So you're absolutely right.
Okay, perfect.
That's the range.
Okay, and I also wanted to be able to commend Ms. LeGrand on our conversations we've had regarding the college's support on this. This is something that we've been working together on for the last probably 6 to 9 months, trying to figure out how to be able to incorporate some of the needs that HART obviously needs in these areas, but how are we going to be able, from the college standpoint, to be able to help support the organization as well, because having the ability to be able to have our fleet maintained and have the folks to be able to drive all of our vehicles is going to be critical. So I think it's a great partnership, and we're looking forward to working with the organization again on the facility or any other ideas that we have later on down the road. So that's going to be the only one last question on that. When it comes to, I know that there was no matching requirement on some of these, but I assume that the way if I remember, staff was really trying to tell us that there was a prioritization that would be given on applications that have a matching component. Am I still right on that, Kim?
Yes, it's not required, but it's looked favorably upon. Anytime we can show, as the term they use up here, that we have skin in the game, it's always a plus.
Okay, perfect. That's all I've got, Madam Chair. Thank you. Thanks, Kim. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you. Commissioner Overman.
Thank you, and thank you both for the presentation. That's excellent. It was a lot of what was discussed when I was up in Tallahassee, and especially the issue associated with the sovereign immunity. That was serious conversations there, and so we should prepare for it coming back next year. Is higher, but it was only by a cost of living than it currently has been maintained. But I think for budgeting points purposes as well as reserve purposes, we're going to probably have to raise our reserves when it comes to that particular issue regarding lawsuits. But the reason I'm going to ask a couple of questions as it pertains to some of the granting, both at the state and the federal level that you mentioned. The Resilient Florida $470 million was basically the sweep of the Sadowski funds last year, partially, where half of the Sadowski funds were pulled out of affordable housing and went to the sea level rise. So I want to go get all that money as possible. And since we do have a need for, additional resources and support for the heavy maintenance to address the flooding there, but also improving our bus shelters. We do have the bus shelter project, and I could see, that project possibly falling under, at the state level, a local support grant, thriving communities, allowing for our bus shelters to be more protective to our bus riders so that they're not standing around in the rain. So I was curious when we look at the federal resources and then what the state could potentially apply for. Is there some combination that would work there for qualifying for those IJJ dollars if we don't have, for example, additional revenues through a surtax?
So for speaking of funding, if we wanted to ask for a community project funding request, we would need a 20% match for bus shelter program going through the community project funding request. So we would need a match there, but there could be something that we could, work out in terms of, state funding, which I'll let Kim answer.
Sure, and specifically on the local support grant program, that is a brand new program. So they haven't provided any process or details or a lot of requirements of what we would need to do. So that's something that we're in the process of getting information on. And as soon as we do, I will coordinate with Lisa as well as with the HART team to see if there's a way that we can utilize, we could go after this grant, that we can count that.
That would be great, because we have a little bit longer deadline. The May 31st deadline is a little bit better than the April 15th, which is next week.
Right.
So I appreciate that. Thank you. I thank you for finding some money and for helping us bring it home. But I do really recognize that having an opportunity to advocate on behalf of the agency is very helpful. So I'm glad I had the opportunity to do that as much, and feel free to call me if I have a chance to get back up there anytime soon. So look forward to seeing your work. Thank you.
Great. And I will just note the April 15th deadline, the process for that is really putting together like a 2-page application versus a 20-page application that would be due in May. So that is, even though the time frame is very short, it's not as labor intensive in terms of paperwork. Advocating, yes, but paperwork is a lot less.
Ms. LeGrand.
Yes, Madam Chair, and Lisa and Kimberly, thank you for your updates. I just wanted to share one point, because, we had the presentation by InfraStrategies, and we talked about all the potential grant opportunities. Now we have the presentation from Holland and Knight, and there are more grant opportunities. But I want us all to keep in mind, we have one bucket with our local funding, right? So just for illustrative purposes, our bucket has $3. So we have $3. We're going to apply for all these grants, but if they all require a local match, and we're successful in winning one, our bucket goes from having $3 to no dollars, right? So it's fair game until we are selected. We'll go after everything, as Director Schistler said, we're going to be bold. We're going to go after all these opportunities, but as soon as we're awarded an opportunity, our bucket is depleted, okay? So, and then the last thing I would say, even though there may be some grant opportunities that say you don't require a local match, it's competitive. Right, so if everybody else has a local match and we don't, we're not going to get the award, right? So even for those that say they don't need anything, we still have to tap into that bucket and apply that bucket to those grants. So the nuance here, and I think Lisa touched on it, many of these opportunities are open at the same time. So if we're applying for them at the same time, we're committing the same local dollars for the same grants. So this is where it gets a little sticky. If we're awarded more than one at the same time, but we're relying on the same local match for one, we'll have to be in a position where we have to say we cannot move forward with one of them, right, because we don't have the local match, or, we have a bake sale and we get more money. But nonetheless, we have to either come up with additional funds or step away. So I just want us to know there's a lot of opportunities, we're going after them, but if we are successful, we will have a situation where we have to come back and prioritize what we're going to move forward. Thank you.
And in terms of the matching for the ferry, the $1.2 million came from the county because HART could not do that. That's the way we were able to secure the ferry grant. And if we hadn't put that in, I don't know that we would get that. But I think it's probably, I was going to say something during the chair's report or otherwise, but I think it's probably appropriate here to say that I did go to the American Public Transit Association meeting in Washington, the legislative meeting last week or the week before for several days. Joined Ms. LeGrand there. And I want to thank, I know Lisa Barkovich was there with us, and we met with FTA. We met with Congresswoman Castor, that I'm very grateful. She's very excited about the ferry grant that I believe she was pretty instrumental probably in securing that for us. We're lucky to have her so supportive of all of HART and the transit projects we have. As well, it was a good time to learn a little more about how we could successfully apply what we needed, where we're going. And we still have the Operations and Maintenance Center there as a primary fundamental need, outstanding. I think right now we're still in need of some $25 million. As we move forward, that's the basis of us doing just maintaining what we have. Again, this is not even, I had heard that it was much needed if we were to expand our bus system. That's true. But if we were able to even keep what we have, we really need to redo that center. So it was good to hear that there is perhaps new opportunities at the state level to do something with regards to our Operation and Maintenance Center, which I think is fundamental and first in how we move forward. But it was a good conference, and we were able, I think, to meet and look at what some other systems we're doing and talk to transit agencies across the country. So that was a good opportunity. I didn't know if you wanted to add anything about that at this time.
I thought it was a great opportunity for us to really hear firsthand from the USDOT, FTA, FRA, all of the modal leaders were there to talk to the body to help us to understand what the next couple of months look like, as well as the next couple of years. And just, many of you are elected, so there's a cycle that we're in right now. So just making it clear that what we have today, we might not have tomorrow, so we need to be as aggressive as possible to secure what's on the table today. So I do think it was a great showing, and was very happy that Commissioner Kemp could attend. And moving forward, I know we've talked about this, if other board members want to attend some of these after sessions, they're very informative. You get the opportunity to meet firsthand with the leadership and, really to state our case. As Commissioner Kemp mentioned, we were able to sit with FTA for those who are over the grant programs that we're talking about and get a better understanding of which grants are the best ones for us to pursue for which types of projects, and really helping us to navigate. I would say at the end of the day, they want to get rid of the money, right? So they got the money. They don't need the money to stay in the bank account. So it's in their best interest for us to understand how to navigate so we can be successful, so they can be successful. And seeing that our board is there and that we're all committed to moving the projects forward really helps us in the long run, because they know that the money that they're giving to the Tampa Bay region will actually get spent. And again, not just sit in their bank account until another administration comes and it gets taken away. So please, we'll continue to share with you the upcoming meetings. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask myself or staff. We'll be here to support you.
Can I make a motion to receive the report and ask that the slides be sent out? Because we did get a wonderful, the digital copy of the slides that were presented today. But I'll make a motion to receive the report, and thank you very much.
And we have a motion by Commissioner Overman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, by Councilman Schisler. And seeing no further comments at this time, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Chair Kemp,
Yes?
Director Overman,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Castor, Director Frazier, Director Hudson,
Yes.
Director Johnson,
Yes.
Director Knight, Director Myers,
Yes.
Director Schisler,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
and Director Vieira. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And with that, we will move to the next item here, which is the sole source procurement and one-time deviation. Ms. LeGrand will present for our procurement manual. Ms. LeGrand will present that.
Yes, okay. I know we're long in the day, so I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as possible. The sole source report, this is on the screen. Ms. Jackson, if you can scroll down a little bit. And we'll see here what we do every month is to show where we are. So there were no sole source awards in the month of March, but we are showing that approximately $1 million worth of awards have been awarded since the beginning of this fiscal year. So no new update here. Again, this information is in the packet every month, and if there's any questions at any time, you can let us know. We'll be prepared to discuss those with you. So that's it if there are no questions.
Thank you. Seeing no questions, we'll move on here. And at this point, we have the CEO's report.
Okay, so
Ms.
again,
LeGrand, you're on.
thank you, Madam Chair. Quickly, we had a lot today. As you can see, staff is really working diligently to really understand where we are currently, and at the same time that we're doing that and preparing for tomorrow, putting service out on the street. So just a couple of quick highlights I have for you today. As was mentioned earlier, we are in the process of developing a 5-year capital plan. This is something that is required in our board policies, and in working with Ms. Kirk and her team, we're going to go through this process this year to ensure that we have a 1 year, which will be our next fiscal year 23 budget, plus 4 years of capital planning, which will get us the 5-year capital plan. So that is something that's moving forward right now. You'll get an update in a couple of months on where we are in the capital plan. In addition, so that's on the capital side, and that's in conjunction with our budget that we're putting together. We're also on the operations side. You had a presentation maybe 2 months ago from a firm called Nelson Nygaard on our optimization plan. So they are moving forward, working on looking at our system, looking at our existing system, our existing resources, and how efficient we can be in optimizing our system. They'll be prepared to come back with an update from their analysis in the next 2 months. So we're scheduling, I believe, in June to have an update from Nelson Nygaard on their COA, so that's comprehensive operational analysis. And the output of that would be giving us the opportunity to restructure our routes so that they can be operated more efficiently, and also one of the goals is to provide more reliability and better service. So that's another item. And then the last item I wanted to provide is an update. In conjunction with the work from Nelson Nygaard, we're also updating our TDP. As was mentioned, this is a major year for a TDP update. Every 5 years, you have to do a major revision or update, and we're in the process of doing that as well. So the good news is the work that we're doing with the financial modeling, the work that we're doing with the capital plan, and the COA will all feed into the update of our TDP, which will then be the first 5 years of our strategic plan. So in a nutshell, everything that we're doing right now is being done very deliberately to tie in to what's required on the state level, what's required on the federal level, and then what's just required locally for us to get the business done. So those are my updates. I kept it pretty brief because we still have several things on the agenda that we need to go through. But if you have any questions for me, I'll take a pause here and respond.
Seeing no questions, we can move on to the chair's report. I already reported about the APTA conference, and the other issue I wanted to make the board aware of is the update on the Hillsborough County Charter Initiative Charter Amendment or Ordinance, and I see that that is in the General Counsel's report. So if I feel the need, maybe I can elaborate on what the General Counsel reports, but we'll move to Ms. Mendel.
Yes, good morning. David Smith is on the line and will give this report. Thank you. David, you're on, we can't hear you.
David, can you hear us?
Yes.
I don't believe David can hear us. David, if you could try leaving the meeting and rejoining, that might fix your issue.
I don't know if while we're waiting on him, I didn't have anything additional.
Okay, there's nothing additional. Okay.
David,
We'll
can you hear
wait.
us now?
I'm sorry. We'll wait a few minutes and, oh,
I'm sorry, David, we can't hear you at the moment. If you click on the downward arrow next to the mute button, there should be something that says switch audio. And if you click on that button, there'll be an option that says call me, and you can put in your number and it will connect your phone to the microphone. Unfortunately, Madam Chair, it looks like David might be having some audio issues at the moment.
okay. I'm just going to move for a second to the TBARTA report. I understand that Commissioner Overman wants to have some comments about the TBARTA report.
Okay, I mean, I'll just to summarize, recently, the TBARTA Board of Directors met as well as the TMA, but they met. They are reporting on conversations that relate to HART's priority project on the TDP regarding negotiations with CSX. They came back and had indicated that CSX was no longer interested in selling those, but that doesn't mean that that's the end of the conversation. It just means that their indication many years ago of the two lines that are the Brooksville line and the Clearwater line that serve Brooksville down to downtown, and basically, Moffett, Yingling, University area, all the way across Hillsborough, through Oldsmar, to Clearwater, and down to St. Pete with the 2 lines that the TMA actually asked T-BARTA to look at and do an evaluation of the condition of that line. So the talks are still in the works, trying to discuss whether or not what the best options are for creating some type of utilization of that right-of-way in one way, shape, or another, whether it be passenger rail, whether it be shared rail, whether it be, an opportunity to lease the line with CSX. But all of that is in play right now in terms of discussion. In addition to that, they're still addressing the BRT that would run from Wesley Chapel, I believe, down to downtown. And that project is being sort of met with some resistance from Hillsborough County. The TPO did agree to a policy to not expand 275 north of certain areas that would be part of the BRT plan. So those negotiations need to continue as T-BARTA looks to move their project forward as far as the BRT. And that's all I have. Thank you.
I'd just like to clarify, I'm also on the T-BARTA board.
Sure.
But the 2 parts of the picture that wasn't put together is CSX was not agreeing to sell, but T-BARTA made it clear that it was predicated on them removing the tracks. So that's what they said in 2 different statements that day. So I'm, well, I just think that was not really pointed out, that connection. But as well as the BRT on the interstate project, what's listed at T-BARTA is to have exclusive lanes from Fletcher to Wesley Chapel, which isn't even on our long-term transportation plan at all, which would cost $100 million or more, and which is under capacity for decades to come. That and as well, the north of the interchange to Fletcher Avenue is not the TPO removed it from the tip for any expansion there. And then finally, I'd like to just note that in order for T-BARTA to do any project, it would require HART funding or county funding to pay for that project. So this would be funding that would be in competition with our HART projects that were listed up there that we saw, or with the county funding, which I don't see happening, but to fund operations. So anyway, I just wanted to clarify that so that people understood as well. And are we ready with Mr. Smith's report?
I think David had to go back out and come back in again. I don't see him. I'm going to go out and call our assistant to find out what the status is. I know that there was an item under new business, if you wanted to take that.
I believe Mr. Smith was on, but was still not able to connect his audio. I believe at the moment he disconnected again.
Okay. And under new business, we see, this is the Board of County Commissioners Transportation Surtax referendum. Well, I guess before we go to that, because that's what Mr. Smith is going to talk about.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I believe Mr. Smith.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Smith, we can hear you.
All right, perfect. What I had to do was switch it to my laptop anyway. Long story short. Good morning, Director. Good to see you again. It's been a long time. I wanted to update you on my memorandum that I sent you on March 20. We've had multiple emails and conference calls and more emails, and here we've come up with the following changes. In case you don't recall exactly what I indicated, the first change was to add a phrase after the definition of the term agencies, that the activity was evidencing, among other things, the direction by the board of the uses to which the surtax shall be applied. This was done essentially for litigation risk. One of the things that you may recall we were challenged on is the idea that the board had essentially surrendered its legislative authority, and that was an improper use of the statute. So we have put somewhat, we think, clear language, but nonetheless reiterating the fact this is pursuant to board direction. That was added pursuant to the discussions. It is now in the version the county is going to consider. And that was in section 11.03. We also added something very similar in 11.04B, and this was the phrase, as contemplated by the state surtax, the board is allocating. So again, it is to clarify this all is an action by the DOCC, which is what 212.55 contemplates. We also had some syntax that corrected that. We were recommending that we delete section 11.04D, and that was the section that indicated the board would review it every 5 years. That was primarily a political consideration because there was some concern that although the board, as it currently exists, is very favorably inclined to support transit and transportation needs, that might not be the case in the future. But nonetheless, the board needs the ability to review this. I think this further strengthens our position vis-a-vis the fact that the board has not delegated the decision-making to any of the agencies or to the Citizen Review Committee. The 11.04D has remained. It is something important to the BOCC that they have the ability to review their 5-year plans and make sure they stay on top of exactly what the planning imperatives are. We were suggesting in 11.06A, they add some language that make it clear, again, just to clarify board direction. This specific language was not included because it was a statement that would be requested by HART. But since the other provisions have remained, this is not necessary to concern or to vitiate a litigation risk. The next change was to section 1111, and that was dealing with the Citizen Advisory Committee. And it added the language that the committee would report their findings to the board, who shall have ultimate authority to oversee compliance with this initiative charter amendment. So again, that was an argument that was made in litigation that the Citizens Committee had initiated the legislative authority of the county commission because they could move by fiat. That was not exactly what we believe the amendment said, but be that as it may, that's how the court chose to read it. And we made it clear that this is an advisory capacity only, so it says solely advisory. There's a significant role there in a government where everything is done in the sunshine and pursuant to public discussion. That's a significant role for the Citizen Advisory Committee, but we don't do anything that changes the ultimate authority to BOCC under the statute. Finally, my last comment was suggesting that we use something closer to the original ballot language, and the language in section is in the end of the charter initiative amendment. It's section 2, referendum. This was agreed to by the county, and they moved back to language that was a lot closer to the ballot initiative, and although that's primarily a political consideration, it is a set of terms and provisions that has been approved once by the public, and it tests well with the public, is my understanding, and therefore we wanted to try to maximize the opportunity to obtain approval of this referendum. There's a couple of tweaks in it, but nothing terribly substantive. One of the challenges that were made during the litigation was the idea that we would relieve rush hour bottlenecks was misleading. The language itself was never found misleading by the court. It's not a big deal to remove that. At least that was the decision ultimately made by Sam Hamilton. I did not ask for that reason, but it is, there were other municipalities providing input. So the upshot is that most if not all of the requests we made were included, and the county heard from all the other municipalities and stakeholders and is contemplating presenting this to the board this Wednesday, April 6th, for placement on an April 20 public hearing. So things are moving along quite rapidly, and we look to be in very good shape, in my opinion, in terms of the legality of what the charter initiative says, and the structure hopefully is that which is going to be acceptable again to the public. If there's any questions.
I just wanted to add, and I know you just said it, but so this Wednesday, April 6th, just for clarity, we will be, the Board of County Commissioners will be looking at this to set for a public hearing. The public hearing date is expected to be Wednesday, April 20th, at a regular board meeting, although I think there's some talk of scheduling it for an evening meeting that has happened in the past. It could be at County Center, it could be scheduled for another place. I think that that's all up for consideration. And again, and I'm not sure if I caught exactly that you outlined the basics of the, and maybe you did, but I guess it could stand to be repeated, is what the ordinance put forward, the draft that was approved 6-1 at the Board of County Commissioners was 45%, full 1 cent for 30 years, 45% for HART, 0.5% for the TPO, and 54.5% to be divided by population between unincorporated county and our 3 cities, Tampa and Temple Terrace and Plant City. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear to everyone as well. And I don't know if there are any questions at this time. Commissioner.
Just one comment. Mr. Smith, thank you very much for your report. One of the clarifications of 1104 or 5, I've forgotten the one you made the comment regarding the 5-year review. It's not only a 5-year review, but that and taking into consideration the long-range transportation plan, which actually the long-range transportation plan has all the elements associated with the various different provisions that Commissioner Kemp just brought up in terms of how the funds should be allocated. And so it gives it some flexibility, but it's in line with our long-range transportation plan. So it lines up the spending with the policies that this board, that the TPO board, and that the Board of County Commission all adopt at some point in time over a 25-year period. So I'm very pleased with where the language is going, and yes, it is important to take into consideration that that this is the Board of County Commission putting this forward that would address some of the challenges that we've seen in the past. So I'm looking forward to Wednesday and April 20th too. And looking forward to having those that are invested in transit come out and help us understand why it's important to them, because I think that would be beneficial. Thank you.
And Madam Chairman, I have a brief update, if I may.
Sure.
We had discussions the last couple of weeks over the recent ruling by Judge Barbas, who is the circuit court judge who originally ruled pursuant to separation of the various provisions that upheld the original referendum. He has issued an order that we believe, I say we, essentially the county, all the cities and HART believe was premature. We'd like to clarify some issues. And so what we are seeking to do is possibly file a motion for reconsideration. It's not technically correct because we weren't heard in the first place on the order, but we think there are issues that need to be brought to the court's attention and things that need to be clarified that aren't adequately addressed. Among other things, the clerk is directed to return certain funds. The clerk doesn't have the funds. In many cases, for example, Plant City and Temple Terrace, who isn't even a party to the litigation, has funds. So there's some procedural issues and some clarifications we believe that need to be made, and we'd like to get in front of Judge Barbas to do that. I just wanted to apprise this board of that fact and let you know if you have any questions, it'd be more prudent to call me. I'd be happy to fill you in. We don't want to indicate too much of what's going on because we have opponents on the other side that would make great use of that.
Okay. Are there any other questions, comments at this time? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to old business. I'm sorry, Commissioner Smith.
Just a very quick question. Thank you. Just a very quick question about what Mr. Smith just said. Are you speaking about the the only order I know of Judge Barbas. He hasn't made a second order that you're now, you were now referencing. Is it, you're talking about the order he made saying there's no remedy for giving back the funds? Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, seeing no further questions at this time, we'll move to old business. Any old business? Okay, and new business?
No, we covered it under the general counsel's report, so I'll let us go.
And seeing no further new business, we'll stand adjourned.
Bye, everybody.